The other big one you had was the Tyreek Hill audio a couple years ago. And without like getting too much into the actual audio itself, but it was the recording of Hill and his then fiance at the time, and they were having a conversation, and during the conversation they were appeared to talk about Hill's 2014 domestic violence incident. I first want to just like, was that audio that you stumbled on, um and second, were there legal concerns at the time when playing that clip?
I like to say that it fell from the sky is probably the answer I'm willing to give. It definitely was legal concerns. I mean, trying to remember back, I think we got that audio in early June, and we didn't play it until during the All-Star break. And it certainly was
Oh
a
wow.
lot of back and forth. I think, I guess one of the negatives of working for like a major company is just the need to like double and triple check. And if you heard that audio, there was just no question whether or not that was Tyreek Hill, right? Like there
Yeah,
was
yeah.
no question that that was doctored or manufactured. And I remember, there was just a lot of hesitancy on like how do we get this authenticated, and like trying to get a confirmation from the lawyer, or confirmation from Tyreek or somebody whose voice was in there, and then all of that back and forth, and then there was like a cost associated with it. And I was like, well, I'll like it's $1,500, I'll pay for it. Like this is big for me. This is big for my career. This is obviously big for the station. This is TMZ worthy news.
Yeah.
Why are we not doing that? There was that, and then I remember, I think it was like the day before we decided to play it, I went to my program director and I'm like, hey, training camp is right around the corner. They are getting really close to deciding what the, penalty is going to be. And, you and I will both regret this if we are sitting here on this audio and we are letting the corporate, the higher ups go back and forth and stop us from playing this. Like, we need to make one really hard push and make a play where, hey, if this thing gets scooped by either another radio station or another news source, or they announce, they meaning the NFL announced their suspension, then this audio is worthless. Like, we gain nothing from having this audio. No one is going to care after the NFL announces their suspension. So, I mean, I just remember that fight. Eventually, we got the word. It was probably a Monday or Tuesday. I can't remember the day, but it was one of those 2 days. We got the word at like 5:35 that it had got approved by management. And then we just made the decision of, hey, we got to roll the dice. Like, we rolled the dice this long. We got to wait until 2:00 tomorrow to decide if we're actually going to do this or not. And I remember my boss told me to kind of tweet something kind of vague to kind of tweet, like get people's interest, kind of pique their interest a little bit. And then he told me at like 15 minutes before the show, hey, tell people what we have and tell them to tune in at 2:00. And just over that 15 minutes, just seeing, how Twitter is like all the mentions, like, oh my God, you got it, you got it. And just that day, and it was just a crazy day, like there's certain days that you really remember in this business.
Yeah.
I remember back when I was hosting with Danny Parkins, I remember we were at, it was the Royals wildcard game in 2014. And this was on a Tuesday, and the Chiefs played on Monday Night Football. They played the Patriots. And this game might not matter to a lot of people, but the Chiefs blew out the Patriots, and Trent Dilfer stood on the field at Arrowhead and said that the Patriots dynasty was over. And it was like, oh my goodness, like someone on ESPN on the record said this. He said this on the field at Arrowhead. And this was the famous Bill Belichick, hey, we're on to Cincinnati. Bill Belichick in that interview got asked about benching Tom Brady for Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, this was the worst case scenario for the Patriots. And I remember that next day, so we were at Kauffman, and Kauffman and Arrowhead are right next to each other. And we're looking at Arrowhead, and we were talking about the Chiefs game. And I just remember feeling, I don't think anybody cares about this. Like, I think the Royals are the biggest story. And, Danny and I kind of talked about it, and we, kind of pivoted to the Royals, and you could just kind of feel the energy, like you remember those kind of days. Or, I remember being on the air, and this was the first time, Brandon, that I thought I was like kind of good at radio. Was, if you remember, this was Colin Kaepernick's first start when he was with the Niners, and Alex Smith, they got hurt, and Kaepernick played really well. It was Monday Night Football against the Bears, And that next day, I came on the air and I said that in the offseason, Kansas City should trade for Alex Smith. And I'm telling you, I got universally crushed, like the worst take you could ever have. And I'm like, no, wait. And I'm telling you, you know how it is when you got an idea. I'm pulling up the numbers and how much it would cost. And I got crushed. Just like early on in my radio career, got cooked for it. And I'm telling you, we were at Surprise, Arizona in spring training. And the tweet came across that from Adam Schefter that they had traded for Alex Smith. And I'm telling you, this was like when I got a PlayStation 2 as a kid. I was like, hey, I told you they were going to trade for Alex Smith. And the text line went crazy and the calls like, hey, you said it. You've been saying it this whole time. So, there's just certain days and stories that you like remember in your career, like really pivotal moments. And that Tyreek day is just, it's up there, man. It was a really wild, 6 weeks and a really wild, like 24 hours of making the decision to finally play.